Okay, so today we are taking a look again at angles using protractors and also just spending an extra day on those unknown angle measures. I know that we started that kind of before spring break, and then yesterday we went through and we learned how to use a protractor, but we really need like 2 days to practice this skill. So let's take a look. In this video, we're going to go through 3 protractors and 1 angle measure question together. So in the first example, when I look at this angle right away, that darkened angle that you can see on your screen, I think to myself, that's an acute angle. But now I need to measure using the protractor. Well, I know that what mathematicians do is they line up that vertex right in the middle, and then one of the rays goes along the 0. And I can see that ray right here going right along the bottom of my protractor. So now what I'm going to do is find the scale that matches. Meaning, when I follow this line right along the bottom, I want to find the 0. It's right here. And then I'm going to follow that scale all the way up until my angle measure. And then I'm going to look at the number that's represented by this ray passing right through it. I can see that we have 0, 10, 20, and 30. So my ray is passing right through the number 30. So this angle measures 30 degrees. Take a look at the other measurement that you see. If you were to follow the wrong scale, meaning you started right here and followed these numbers, you'd have an angle measure of 150 degrees. Does this angle look like an angle that would measure 150 degrees? No. So it's really important to look at the correct scale. Again, we do that by following this ray over until we find the 0. The 0 this time is right here on the bottom. So we're going to follow that over until we meet the next ray of our angle and then record the measurement of 30 degrees. Let's do another example. What do you think when you see this angle? Right, it's obtuse. And we know that obtuse angles measure greater than 90 degrees. We can even see that 90-degree mark right there on our protractor. But we're going to follow along. First, let's find the ray that goes along this 0 line. So it's right here. And then again, we always want to start on the 0. So now, let me find a different color. I'm going to start on the 0 and follow this scale, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and stop. It kind of looks like to me that this measurement right here is 100, and this one right here, so we have 100 right here, and then 110 right here. And I know that the number that falls right in between those two is going to be 105 degrees. Again, following this scale from 0 all the way up until I find my angle, and I can see that this line, this darkened line of my angle, falls right between this number of 100 and this number of 110. And I know that directly between 100 and 110 will be 105 degrees. One last example. Let's take a look here. What do you think when you see that angle? Right, again, we can tell that this is going to be an obtuse angle. It's almost a complete straight angle. So we know that it's going to be really close to that 180-degree measure. First, we're going to find the ray that sits right along the 0. That's this one right here. Then we're going to find that scale that begins with 0. So we can see the 0 right there. So we're going to follow that until we see the other angle measures. So counting up, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and stop. Now let's kind of zoom in here so we can see what we're working with. Let's see if that'll focus a little bit better. So right away, we can see that we're directly between that mark of 170 and 180. So falling right in the middle, I would say that this angle measure is going to be 175 degrees. Sorry for Hazel. She always makes her guest appearance. Right, in the second part of this video, we're going to go through and take a look at some unknown angle measures. All right, we are here in part 2 of the video, and now we are going to look at some unknown angle measures. So we have a diagram here. It looks kind of complex, but let's kind of break down what we know. When we look right here, this straight angle right here, ABE, we know measures 180 degrees. When we look right here, ABC, we know that that's a right angle, and they've given us that measure of 90 degrees. Now, when we look right here, we know that if this is 90, then CBE is also going to measure. So from here to here is also going to be 90 degrees. And then what they've done, it looks like they've taken a separate ray right here to break that angle into 2 smaller angles. So this measurement will be 45. And what I know is that 45 is actually half of 90. So 45 plus 45 would give me 90. So this unknown measure is also 45 degrees. So now I think that we're ready to get started. Whenever I'm given a figure like this, I just kind of like to look at it first and see like what they've given me, and then also think about what I know. Let's look at question here number 5. Which equation can you use to find the measurement? So M just means the measurement of angle CBD. So we have to find this one right here. CBD. Well, didn't we just say that it was 45 degrees? Let's look at our answer choices. Is it 90 plus 180? That doesn't really make any sense. I don't know why you would add 90 plus 180 to find this angle measure. So A is incorrect. What about B? 180 minus 90. Well, they're saying you would take this straight angle and you'd have to subtract this entire thing to find this angle measure. That wouldn't make any sense. You're not going to take away 90 because then you'd be left with just this other half. So B does not make any sense. What about C? 180 minus 90 plus 45. Well, I guess what they're saying there is take this angle measure, which we know is 180, and then subtract this, the 90 plus the 45. Well, that kind of makes sense to me, guys. If I take what I know of 180 and I take away this portion plus this portion, I'm going to be left with this unknown measure. Let's try it. 90 plus 45, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 135. And now let's take our 180 and subtract 135. I can't take 5 away from 0, so I'm going to have to borrow. This now becomes a 7, and this is now 10. 10 minus 5 is 5, and 7 minus 3 is 4. 45 degrees. That's the angle measure that we got. So C is the correct answer. So again, you need to look at your answer choices because you might have thought right away it's going to be 90 minus 45 because that's what we did in our brains to solve for this measure first. But when you look down here at your answer choices, was that one of your answer choices? No, because let's look at D real quick. You're not going to take 180 and subtract 45. That would give you this entire space right here. So D was also incorrect. Let's try one last problem before you guys get started on your own. I'm going to zoom in on this one here. So we're looking right now at question number 7. It says, 2 angles form a straight angle. Okay. One angle measures 58 degrees. What is the measure of the other angle? So we know that a straight angle, there's a couple things here. We have to know that the straight angle measures 180 degrees. And then we have to know that one of those angles measures 58. So we're going to subtract 58 from our 180 to find the measurement of the other angle. Some of you might like to draw a picture. We know that this would represent our straight angle of 180, and 58 is like quite a bit less than 90. So I'm going to say that this angle measure is 58 right here. And what they're looking for is the angle measure of this angle. So let's take our 180 and do some subtraction. Let's take away that 58. I cannot take 8 away from 10, so I'm going to borrow. And now 7 in the 10th place, 10 in my 1's place. 10 minus 8 is 2, and 7 minus 5 is 2. 1, bring it down, 122 degrees. If you wanted to check your work, you could simply add these two together, and they should equal that straight angle of 180. So 122 plus 58, 8 plus 2 is 10, carry the 1, 5 plus 2 plus 1, that's 8 and 1. Check. The answer is 122. Today you guys have some practice problems. They are multiple choice. They are all online. It is not graded. This is just a review because they do not have these problems in your textbook. We will meet at 2 o'clock to go over those questions.